There is something moving through you right now that did not begin with you. Not a metaphor, not a poetic way of saying you look like your grandmother. Something far stranger than resemblance. Something that science is only now beginning to catch up with. And when you understand what it actually is, the way you see yourself, your instincts, your unexplainable knowings, the things your body does before your mind can explain why, all of it will shift. You were taught that inheritance is simple, that your parents gave you genes, those genes gave you traits, and the rest of your life is environment, a clean transaction. Biology hands you the raw material, experience shapes it, and whatever you become is some combination of the two. That is the story. And for a long time it seemed complete, but it was never complete. It was just the part we could measure. Because there is another layer of inheritance that does not travel through the sequence of your DNA alone. It travels through the way your DNA is read. Through chemical tags that sit on top of your genetic code like annotations in the margin of a book. Annotations that were written not by you, but by the people who came before you, in response to things they lived through, things they survived, things they felt so deeply that the feeling itself became biological instruction passed forward across generations. And here is where it becomes extraordinary. The mechanism by which those instructions persist, the mechanism by which an experience your great-grandmother had during a famine can alter the way your body responds to scarcity today. That mechanism behaves in ways that are far closer to quantum entanglement than classical biology ever predicted. Stay with this. Because this is not about honoring your ancestors in some vague spiritual sense, though that matters too. This is about understanding, with precision, why your blood remembers things your mind has never been told. Let us start with what entanglement actually is, because the word gets used loosely and the real phenomenon is stranger than any loose usage suggests. In 1935, Einstein, along with Podolsky and Rosen, published a paper meant to expose what they saw as a flaw in quantum mechanics. They described a situation in which two particles, once they interact, become linked in such a way that measuring one instantly determines the state of the other, regardless of the distance between them. Einstein called this spooky action at a distance. He meant it as a criticism. He was arguing that quantum mechanics must be incomplete because no reasonable physical theory should allow for this kind of non-local connection. But decades of experiments proved him wrong on this point. Entanglement is real. It has been verified so many times in so many configurations that it is no longer debated. In 2022, the Nobel Prize in Physics was awarded to Alain Aspect, John Clauser, and Anton Zeilinger specifically for their experiments demonstrating violations of Bell inequalities, which confirmed that entangled particles genuinely share a connection that cannot be explained by any local hidden variable. When you measure the spin of one entangled photon, the other photon, which could be on the other side of a laboratory or theoretically on the other side of the universe, instantly correlates. Not after a signal travels between them. Instantly. As though they are not two things at all, but one thing expressing itself in two locations. Now hold that. One thing expressing itself in two locations. Because that phrase is going to become the key to everything we explore today. The classical view of inheritance says you are a separate biological event. Your ancestors lived, they reproduced, they passed along a sequence of nucleotides, and that sequence now sits in your cells as a kind of static blueprint. In this view, you are downstream from them. They are the source, you are the result, and the river only flows one direction. But epigenetics, the study of heritable changes in gene expression that do not involve changes to the underlying DNA sequence, has shattered that model in ways most people still have not absorbed. Here is what epigenetics actually found. Your DNA is not a fixed blueprint. It is more like a vast library, and which books get read, which chapters get opened, which sentences get highlighted, that is determined by chemical modifications, primarily methylation and histone modification, that sit on top of the code. These modifications are not random. They are responsive. They change based on what the organism experiences. Stress, nutrition, trauma, love, danger, safety, all of these write epigenetic marks onto the genome. And here is the part that changed everything we thought we knew about inheritance. Some of those marks get passed to the next generation, and the next, and the next. The landmark study that brought this into public awareness was conducted at Emory University by Brian Diaz and Carrie Ressler, published in 2013 in Nature Neuroscience. They exposed male mice to acetophenone, a chemical with a cherry blossom-like scent, while simultaneously delivering a mild foot shock. The mice learned to fear the smell. That is basic conditioning, nothing surprising. But then the researchers bred those mice and examined their offspring who had never been exposed to the scent or the shock. The pups showed heightened sensitivity to acetophenone. Their olfactory neurons dedicated to detecting that specific scent were physically larger. They startled at the smell their fathers had learned to fear. And this sensitivity persisted into the third generation, grandchildren of the original mice, who had never encountered the scent, who had never met the grandfather who was conditioned, still carried the fear in their neurology. Sit with that for a moment. A fear that was learned, not genetic in the traditional sense, traveled across generations without any direct transmission of experience. The grandfather feared. The grandson flinched. And the mechanism was epigenetic tags on the DNA associated with the relevant olfactory receptors. If this is already shifting the way you see your own inheritance, take a moment to hit that like button and subscribe so we can keep exploring this territory together. There is a reason this work touches people deeply and still does not always move their reality. It is not because they are not ready. It is because no one has shown them where to look. There is something underneath all of it, quietly running the show. I am hosting a free live transmission where I walk you through exactly what that is and how to finally shift it at the root. The link to register is in the description below. Save your seat. The moment you see this, you will understand why you could not see it before. Now, this is where most discussions stop. They say, "Isn't that interesting?" They draw a loose connection to human trauma, and they move on. But we are not going to move on. Because the deeper question, the question almost no one asks, is how. How does an experience, something that happens in the felt, subjective, conscious world of a living being, translate into a chemical tag on a molecule? And how does that tag then recreate something resembling the original experience in a being who never had it? What is the medium of that transmission? And why does it behave so much like entanglement? Think about what is actually happening in epigenetic inheritance. An ancestor has an experience. That experience is not merely recorded as information. It is recorded as a pattern of activation, a specific configuration of which genes are expressed and which are silenced. That configuration then persists in the germline cells, the sperm or egg, and is transmitted to the offspring. The offspring, without any direct exposure to the original stimulus, develops neural and physiological structures that respond as though the experience had been their own. The fear is not remembered. It is reenacted at the cellular level. This is not the behavior of a simple recording. A recording plays back what was captured. What epigenetic inheritance does is more like resonance. The original experience sets a pattern. That pattern propagates. And in a new organism, in a new time, in a new body, the pattern expresses itself as though the original event is still happening. Two beings, separated by time and sometimes by geography, correlated in their response to a stimulus that only one of them ever encountered. One thing expressing itself in two locations. Now, I want to be careful here, because the claim is not that epigenetic inheritance is literally quantum entanglement in the physics sense. The energy scales are different. The decoherence times are different. And we do not yet have experimental evidence of sustained quantum coherence in germline epigenetic transmission. That distinction matters. Intellectual honesty requires it. But what quantum entanglement reveals about the nature of reality, that is where the parallel becomes profound. Entanglement tells us that the universe allows for non-local correlation. It tells us that two systems can share a state in such a way that they behave as one, even when separated. It tells us that the assumption of separateness, the assumption that things which are physically apart are therefore fundamentally independent, is wrong at the most basic level of reality. And epigenetic inheritance tells us something startlingly similar about biological systems. It tells us that organisms separated by generations can share patterns of response. It tells us that experience is not locked inside the individual who has it. It tells us that the boundary of the self is more porous than we imagined. And both of these findings point toward the same deeper principle. That connection is more fundamental than separation. That correlation across distance, whether spatial distance in the case of entangled particles or temporal distance in the case of inherited epigenetic marks, is not an anomaly. It is a feature of how reality is structured. David Bohm, the physicist who spent decades developing an alternative interpretation of quantum mechanics, had a term for this. He called it the implicate order. Bohm argued that what we see, the world of separate objects and sequential events, is the explicate order, the unfolded surface of reality. Beneath it lies the implicate order, a deeper level in which everything is enfolded into everything else. In the implicate order, separation is an illusion. The particle here and the particle there are not two things connected by some mysterious force. They are two expressions of one undivided movement. The connection does not need to travel between them, because at the deeper level, there is no between. Apply Bohm's framework to ancestral inheritance, and something remarkable emerges. Your great-grandmother's experience of famine did not send a signal forward through time to reach you. At the implicate level, her experience and your biology are not separate events connected by a chain of transmission. They are two expressions of one pattern, unfolding across what we perceive as time, but what may be, at a deeper level, a single undivided process. This is not mysticism dressed as science. This is what the science itself implies when you follow it to its logical conclusion. And now consider what this means for the things you have always felt but could never explain. You have instincts that do not match your personal history, fears that have no origin in anything you have lived through, attractions to places you have never visited. a sense of recognition when you hear certain music, certain languages, certain stories. A pull towards skills you were never taught, but that feel like remembering rather than learning. You have probably dismissed these as quirks of personality, or as imagination, or as coincidence. But what if they are not any of those things? What if they are the epigenetic echoes of experiences your ancestors had, still resonating in your biology, still shaping the way your genes are read, still configuring the neural architecture through which you perceive and respond to the world? I want to pause here and ask you something. What is the one instinct, fear, or unexplainable knowing you carry that you have always suspected did not originate with you? Drop it in the comments. You might be surprised how many others share the same inherited echo. The Dias and Wrestler study showed this with fear and a single scent in mice across 3 generations. But humans have been surviving, adapting, loving, grieving, fighting, creating, and enduring for tens of thousands of generations. The epigenetic landscape you carry is not a single annotation. It is a palimpsest, layer upon layer of experience written and rewritten across deep time, and you are reading from it every moment of your life without knowing it. There is a study from Rachel Yehuda at Mount Sinai, published in 2016 in Biological Psychiatry, examining the children of Holocaust survivors. Yehuda found that the adult children of people who survived the concentration camps showed distinct epigenetic changes on the gene FKBP5, which is involved in the regulation of the stress hormone cortisol. These changes were not present in Jewish people of the same age whose parents had not been in the Holocaust. The children had not experienced the camps. Many of them grew up in safety and relative comfort. But their cortisol regulation, the way their bodies managed stress at the most fundamental hormonal level, bore the signature of their parents' trauma. Their blood remembered what their minds had never known. And here is where I want you to notice something about your own life. Not as an intellectual exercise, but as a genuine inquiry. Think about the way you respond to threat. Not the way you think about threat, the way your body responds. The tightening in your chest, the pattern of your breath, the specific flavor of your anxiety, because anxiety has flavors. It is not one uniform experience. Some people's anxiety is sharp and electric, a jolt of hypervigilance. Others feel it as a sinking, a heaviness, a pulling inward. Some freeze, some flee, some fight. And the particular shape of your stress response, the one that feels so personal, so uniquely yours, may not be yours at all. It may be an inherited pattern, an epigenetic instruction written by an ancestor whose danger was real and immediate, replaying in your nervous system in response to triggers that your conscious mind cannot connect to any event in your own life. This is not a reason to feel powerless. It is the opposite, because here is what the science also shows, and this is critical. Epigenetic marks are not permanent. They can be changed. The same mechanisms that allow experience to write on the genome also allow new experience to rewrite it. Meditation, sustained safety, new relational patterns, even specific breathing practices have been shown to alter epigenetic expression. A study from Herbert Benson's group at Harvard, published in PLOS One, demonstrated that long-term practitioners of the relaxation response showed different patterns of gene expression compared to controls, affecting pathways involved in inflammation, oxidative stress, and cellular aging. The practice changed which genes were being read. which means that you are not merely the passive recipient of your ancestors' experiences. You are also the author of the epigenetic inheritance you will pass forward. The work you do on yourself, the fears you face, the patterns you interrupt, the stillness you cultivate. These are not just personal achievements. They are contributions to a lineage. They are revisions to a document that will be read by people who do not yet exist. And this brings us back to entanglement. Because entanglement is not just about correlation. It is about wholeness. When two particles are entangled, they do not merely influence each other. They share a quantum state. They are described by a single wave function. The mathematics does not treat them as two things interacting. It treats them as one system, and the act of measurement on one does not send a message to the other. It reveals the state of the whole. What if lineage works the same way? Not as a chain of separate individuals passing information forward, but as a single system, a single pattern of consciousness expressing itself across what we experience as time. What if your grandmother's courage and your courage are not two separate quantities, but two measurements of the same entangled state? This is where the indigenous traditions were ahead of the science by millennia. Across cultures, from the Yoruba concept of aura and ancestral consciousness, to the Aboriginal Australian understanding of the dream time as a living, present reality rather than a distant past, to the Confucian emphasis on filial piety as a literal connection to a still active ancestral field, to the Celtic understanding of the thin places where the boundary between living and dead dissolves, human beings have consistently reported that their ancestors are not gone, that they are present, that they can be felt, consulted, accessed. Western modernity dismissed this as superstition, but epigenetics and quantum theory together suggest that these traditions were describing something real, something that operates through mechanisms we are only now developing the language to articulate. The Zulu concept of Amadlozi, the ancestral spirits who continue to guide and protect the living, is not a belief in ghosts in the Western sense. It is a recognition that the patterns of wisdom, survival, and adaptation that your forebears cultivated continue to operate through you. The Aboriginal dreamtime is not a mythological past. It is an implicate order, a deeper reality in which all events, past, present, and future, coexist and interpenetrate. These are not primitive attempts to explain what science now explains better. They are sophisticated descriptions of the same non-local, entangled, epigenetically transmitted reality that Western science is rediscovering with different instruments. And your body knows this even when your mind resists it. Pay attention right now to what happens in your body when you consider the possibility that you are not a single, isolated event, that you are a node in a web of consciousness that stretches back through deep time, that the strength you sometimes feel rising in you from nowhere, the calm that descends in crisis without any technique you applied, the knowing that arrives before the evidence. These are not random neurological events. They are the expression of an ancestral field that is still active, still coherent, still entangled with you in the most literal sense available to us. Notice what your body does with that idea. Does something relax? Does something open? There is often a felt sense of recognition when a deep truth is spoken, a settling, a yes that comes from below the neck. That response itself may be ancestral. The capacity to recognize truth somatically, to feel it before you think it, is one of the oldest forms of intelligence your lineage carries. Tell me in the comments, what did your body just do when you considered that possibility? Did something soften, open, or shift? Your experience matters here because it helps others trust what they are feeling too. Now I want to take you somewhere specific. I want to talk about what happens in the space between generations, because that space is not empty. When a human egg is formed in a female fetus, that fetus is inside its mother's womb, which means that the egg that would eventually become you was already forming inside your mother while your mother was inside your grandmother. 3 generations nested. Your grandmother's hormonal environment, her stress levels, her nutritional status, her emotional state. All of these directly influenced the epigenetic landscape of the egg that would become you. You were not merely influenced by your grandmother's life. You were, in a very real biological sense, present for part of it. Your cellular origins overlap with her lived experience. The boundary between her body and your beginnings is not as clear as the story of separate generations suggests. This is called transgenerational epigenetic inheritance through the germline, and it has been documented in humans for nutritional exposures, stress responses, and metabolic programming. The Dutch Hunger Winter Studies, examining the children and grandchildren of women who were pregnant during the Nazi-imposed famine in the Netherlands in 1944 and 45, found that the grandchildren of women who experienced famine during early pregnancy had higher rates of obesity and cardiovascular disease. The famine ended. The food returned. But the epigenetic marks it left continued to shape bodies 2 generations later. Your body is a living archive, not a metaphorical archive, a literal one. The way your metabolism functions, the sensitivity of your stress axis, the threshold at which your immune system activates. These are all influenced by epigenetic settings that were calibrated not just by your own experience, but by the experiences of people whose names you may not even know. And here is where this understanding becomes not just fascinating, but transformative. Because most of the patterns that cause suffering in human life are patterns of reaction. You react to a perceived threat with a cascade of stress hormones. You react to intimacy with withdrawal because somewhere in your lineage, intimacy was not safe. You react to abundance with anxiety because somewhere in your lineage, abundance was always followed by loss. These reactions feel like yours. They feel like personality. They feel like who you are. But many of them are inherited settings, epigenetic defaults calibrated for a world your ancestors lived in, not the world you live in now. And the moment you see a reaction as inherited rather than intrinsic, something extraordinary happens. You gain the ability to choose differently, not by suppressing the reaction, not by overriding it with willpower, but by recognizing it as a pattern that was adaptive once, honoring the ancestor for whom it was survival, and then consciously, deliberately, creating a new experience that writes a new mark. This is what every genuine spiritual tradition means by healing. Not fixing something broken, updating something outdated, completing something that was left incomplete by someone who did not have the safety or the resources to complete it themselves. You are not just healing yourself, you are healing backward and forward simultaneously. When you interrupt a pattern of inherited reactivity, you are completing the unfinished business of your lineage. And because epigenetic marks can be rewritten and passed forward, you are also changing what your descendants will inherit. You are a hinge point, a place where the pattern can turn. If this idea of rewriting inherited signals is resonating with you, here is something worth exploring. Have you spent years chasing manifestation, visualizing, affirming, raising your vibration, only to watch the same patterns repeat? Every traditional method assumes the same thing, that you are separate from what you want. That separation was never real. You were chasing a signal you were already broadcasting. Beyond the frequencies, a quantum guide to consciousness mastery walks through all 9 frequencies. From the dense transmissions trapping you, through the ascending currents, to the master frequencies where consciousness becomes the field. Every method you tried sent a signal outward. This one tunes the signal you already are. Every day you delay, your nervous system broadcasts the same old signal, and breaking free gets harder. So move on it tonight. The link is in the pinned comment below. Now let us bring this deeper into the body, where the real transformation lives. Let me bring this into the body now, because understanding this intellectually is only the first layer. The deeper integration happens when you feel it. I want you to try something. Right now, wherever you are, bring your attention to your hands. Not to the idea of your hands, to the actual sensation in them. The warmth or coolness, the subtle pulse, the weight of them. Just notice them as though you have never noticed them before. Now consider this: the structure of your hands, the length of your fingers, the sensitivity of your fingertips, the way they move. All of this was shaped by the hands of every ancestor in your line. Hands that built shelters, that held children, that prepared food, that gripped weapons, that reached for each other in the dark. The motor patterns encoded in your neuromuscular system, the fine motor control that lets you do things with your hands that you were never formally taught. These are not entirely learned in your lifetime. Some of them are inherited competencies, epigenetic predispositions toward certain kinds of dexterity, certain kinds of making, certain kinds of touch. And the sensation you feel in your hands right now, that aliveness, that hum, that is not just blood flow. It is the felt sense of a living lineage expressing itself through your tissue. When indigenous healers speak of ancestral power flowing through the hands, they are describing something that epigenetics can now partially explain. The hands remember. The body remembers. The blood remembers. Now bring your attention from your hands to your breath. Notice the rhythm of it without changing it. Just observe. Your breathing pattern, the depth, the pace, the ratio of inhale to exhale is influenced by your autonomic nervous system, which is influenced by your stress axis, which is calibrated in part by inherited epigenetic settings. The way you breathe when you are calm and the way you breathe when you are afraid are both shaped by ancestral experience. Here is the practice I want you to take from this. It is specific to what we have been exploring. Begin to breathe with the conscious intention of communicating safety to your epigenome. This is not a metaphor. Slow, deep, diaphragmatic breathing activates the vagus nerve, which downregulates the sympathetic stress response, which alters the hormonal environment of your cells, which influences epigenetic expression. When you breathe slowly and deeply with the felt intention of safety, you are literally rewriting inherited stress marks. You are telling your genome, through the language it understands, that the danger your ancestor encoded is no longer present. Try it now. A slow inhale through the nose, filling the belly first, then the chest. A pause at the top, not forced, just a natural resting. Then a slow exhale, longer than the inhale, through the mouth or nose, letting the belly fall. And as you exhale, let there be a felt sense of releasing something that is not yours, not rejecting it, not dishonoring it, releasing it with gratitude, the way you would return a borrowed coat to someone who needed it more than you do now. Do this for a few breaths. And as you do, hold the understanding that this simple act is not simple at all. It is an act of intergenerational healing. It is a conversation between you and your lineage, conducted in the language of the body, which is the oldest language there is. There is a concept in quantum mechanics called quantum decoherence. It describes the process by which a quantum system loses its coherence, its entangled, superposed state, through interaction with its environment. The system does not stop being quantum. It becomes entangled with so many environmental factors that its quantum properties become effectively invisible at the macroscopic level. The coherence is still there, buried in the complexity, but it can no longer be easily observed or accessed. I want to suggest that something similar happens with ancestral knowledge. The coherence is still there. The entanglement between you and your lineage is still active, but it has become buried under layers of environmental noise, cultural conditioning, rational override, the relentless demand of modern life to attend to the surface and ignore the depth. You have not lost your ancestral powers. They have decohered. They have become entangled with so much noise that you can no longer easily access them. And the practices that every wisdom tradition prescribes, silence, stillness, fasting, ceremony, time in nature, rhythmic movement, breathwork, meditation, these are all, in this framework, practices of recoherence. They strip away the environmental noise. They reduce the complexity that buries the signal. They allow the original entanglement, the deep correlation between you and your lineage, to become accessible again. This is why people who meditate deeply sometimes report experiences that feel ancestral, visions of places they have never been, knowledge of skills they have never learned, a sense of being accompanied by presences that feel familial. These are not hallucinations. They are moments of recoherence, moments when the noise drops low enough for the entangled signal to become perceptible. And this is why trauma disrupts this access. Trauma creates noise. It floods the system with stress hormones, hyperactivates the sympathetic nervous system, fragments attention, and locks the organism into survival mode. In survival mode, there is no bandwidth for subtle signals. The body cannot listen to the deep hum of lineage when it is screaming about immediate danger. Healing trauma, then, is not just about relieving suffering. It is about restoring the conditions under which ancestral coherence can re-emerge. Consider what this means for the modern epidemic of disconnection. The pervasive sense, reported across cultures and demographics, that something is missing, that life feels thin, that there is a depth that should be accessible but is not. What if that sense of disconnection is not psychological, but quantum? What if it is the felt experience of decoherence, of being cut off from the entangled field of your own lineage by the noise of a civilization that has forgotten how to be still? And what if the cure is not more information, not more therapy, not more consumption, but simply the restoration of coherence? The deliberate creation of conditions, silence, stillness, attention, reverence, under which the entanglement that was always there can be felt again. There is a practice in many African diasporic traditions called ancestor veneration. It is not worship in the Western religious sense. It is communication. The practitioner creates a quiet space, often with water, which is understood as a conductor, and speaks to their ancestors. They report. They ask for guidance. They listen. And they describe receiving responses, not as audible voices, but as shifts in feeling, sudden knowings, dreams, synchronicities. Western psychology would call this a projective exercise, valuable but imaginary. But consider it through the lens of what we have been exploring. If your epigenome carries the encoded experiences of your ancestors, and if practices of stillness and attention can reduce the noise that buries those encodings, then ancestor communication is not projection. It is access. You are not imagining a conversation with your grandmother. You are reading the annotations she left on your genome, annotations that become legible when you create the right conditions of inner quiet. The water on the ancestor altar is not magic, but water is a conductor, and the act of sitting before it with focused attention and reverent intention creates exactly the neurological conditions: parasympathetic activation, reduced cortical noise, enhanced interoception, under which subtle somatic signals become perceptible. The tradition encoded the practice. The science explains the mechanism. Neither is complete without the other. Now I want to address something that might be arising. A resistance. A voice that says this is too much, that it stretches the science too far, that entanglement is a quantum phenomenon and cannot be applied to biology at this scale. That voice deserves respect, because intellectual rigor matters and sloppy analogies help no one. So let me be precise about what I am and am not claiming. I am not claiming that your cells are in a state of quantum entanglement with your grandmother's cells in the way that two photons in a Bell test are entangled. The physical conditions are different. Biological systems are warm, wet, and noisy, which classically should destroy quantum coherence rapidly. But I am pointing to three things that are true, and that, taken together, suggest something profound. First, quantum biology is a real and growing field. Quantum coherence has been demonstrated in photosynthesis, where energy transfer in light-harvesting complexes proceeds with an efficiency that can only be explained by quantum superposition. Quantum tunneling has been demonstrated in enzyme catalysis. Quantum effects have been implicated in the avian magnetic compass, in olfaction, and potentially in neural microtubules as proposed by Penrose and Hameroff. The claim that quantum effects cannot operate in biological systems is no longer tenable. They do. The question is how far they extend. Second, entanglement as a principle. The principle that systems which have interacted share a state that persists beyond their separation maps with startling precision onto what we observe in epigenetic inheritance. An ancestor and a descendant are systems that have interacted, literally, through the germline, and they share patterns of response that persist beyond their separation in time. Whether the mechanism is quantum in the strict physics sense, or whether it operates through classical epigenetic chemistry, the structure is the same. Correlation without direct communication. Shared state across separation. Wholeness beneath apparent division. Third, and most importantly, the worldview that entanglement implies. A worldview in which separation is secondary and connection is primary. In which the whole is more fundamental than the parts. In which what happens here is correlated with what happens there in ways that cannot be explained by any signal traveling between them. That worldview is the same worldview that indigenous traditions have maintained for thousands of years regarding ancestral connection. The physics and the traditions converge on the same insight. You are not alone. You were never alone. You are part of a field, and that field is alive. So when I say that quantum entanglement proves your ancestral powers were always real, I am not making a narrow claim about subatomic particles in your DNA. I am making a broader claim about the nature of reality itself. Entanglement proved that the universe is non-local. Epigenetics proved that inheritance is non-linear. Together, they validate what your body has always known and what your ancestors always told you, that you carry more than genes. You carry a living intelligence that transcends the individual, that connects you to everyone who came before, and that is accessible to you right now if you know how to listen. And listening is the practice, not thinking, not analyzing, listening with the body. There is a specific way to cultivate this listening, and it is different from ordinary meditation. Ordinary meditation often aims to empty the mind, to reach a state of pure awareness without content. That is valuable. But ancestral listening is different. It is not about emptying. It is about tuning. Like adjusting a radio dial, you are not trying to eliminate all signal. You are trying to find a specific frequency. Here is how to begin. Find a quiet space. Sit comfortably. Close your eyes. Begin with the slow breathing we practiced earlier, the extended exhale, the felt sense of safety. Do this for several minutes until you feel your nervous system settle. Then bring your attention to your blood. Not the concept of blood, the felt sense of it moving through you, the pulse in your wrists, your neck, your temples. Feel the rhythm of it. This rhythm has never stopped since the first heart in your line began to beat. It has been continuous. Mother to child, an unbroken pulse stretching back to the beginning of your species and beyond. You are feeling the oldest rhythm you have access to. Now, without forcing anything, without trying to see or hear anything specific, simply hold the intention of openness toward your lineage. You might silently say something like, I am here. I am listening. Show me what I need to know. And then wait. Not with expectation, with receptivity. What comes may be subtle. A shift in body temperature, a sensation in a specific area, an emotion that does not seem connected to anything in your current life, an image, a word, a color. Do not judge it. Do not analyze it. Just receive it. You can make sense of it later. In the moment, your only job is to be a clear receiver. This practice, done regularly, begins to restore what I have been calling coherence. It reduces the noise. It strengthens the signal. And over time, you may find that the ancestral intelligence you carry becomes more accessible, not as dramatic visions or voices, but as a deepening of instinct, a sharpening of intuition, a growing sense of being supported by something larger than your individual will. Because that is what your ancestors want for you. Not obedience, not worship. Completion. They want you to complete what they could not, to heal what they could not heal, to live fully in ways that their circumstances did not allow. Every unresolved pattern in your lineage is an invitation, not a curse. It is a place where the work is waiting, and you are the one who arrived with enough safety, enough awareness, enough freedom to do it. And when you do that work, something happens that entanglement predicts, but that still feels like a miracle. The healing moves in both directions, not just forward to your children, but backward to your ancestors. Because if the system is truly entangled, if it is truly one pattern expressing across time rather than a chain of separate events, then a change in any part of the system changes the whole. This is what forgiveness actually is, at the deepest level. Not a moral decision, not a psychological exercise, a quantum event. When you forgive an ancestor, when you release a pattern they passed to you are not just freeing yourself. You are resolving a disturbance in the entangled field. You are completing something that has been incomplete across generations. And the felt sense of that completion, the lightness, the opening, the sudden sense of space where there was constriction, that is the somatic signature of coherence being restored. Your blood never forgot. That is not a slogan. It is a precise description of how epigenetic inheritance works. Your blood carries the chemical annotations of every significant experience in your lineage. It carries the fears and the courage, the losses and the survivals, the knowledge and the wounds. It carries what was completed